Imagine a world where your morning commute takes 8 minutes, where traffic is someone else's problem, where the sky isn't reserved for airlines and it belongs to everyone. No noise, no pollution, just a sleek electric jet lifting you above the city and delivering you somewhere new before your coffee gets cold. This was the world Lilium promised to build. Invisible aerial corridors humming with clean, silent energy, where geography ceased to be a cage. For millions trapped in grinding urban commutes, the Lilium pitch wasn't just a product, it was a reprieve, a promise that modernity had finally caught up with the oldest human dream, to fly freely above all the noise below. And for a moment, the world believed them. Investors believed them. Governments believed them. Engineers quit stable careers to join them. When the story had every element that makes technology irresistible. Brilliant young founders, a dazzling prototype, a $1 trillion market, and a future that felt breathtakingly close. Then the ground came up very fast. In 2015, four aerospace engineering students at the Technical University of Munich asked a question haunting inventors for a century. What if anyone could fly? Not in a commercial jet, in something personal, electric, that could take off from a rooftop and land downtown, silently on demand. Their names were Daniel Wiegand, Sebastian Born, Matthias Mainer, and Patrick Nathan. Trained engineers who understood fluid dynamics, propulsion systems, and the punishing physics of powered flight. They had studied the graveyard of electric aviation startups with beautiful renders and fatal battery problems. They believed it with the confidence of people who have studied a problem long enough to see its solution, that this time could be different. Their answer was Lilium. Unlike most student projects, this one didn't die in a drawer. Within 2 years, they had a flying prototype that lifted itself into the Bavarian sky. Within 4 years, they had raised $240 million from investors, including Tencent and Atomico. Within five, their five-seater Lilium jet's first flight video had been watched 10 million times on YouTube. Aviation veterans who had spent careers dismissing electric flight were suddenly paying attention. The students had become founders, the project a company, and the company something the aviation world had not seen in a long time. Genuine excitement. Here is what made Lilium genuinely different. Most competitors were building large quadcopters, energy-hungry machines where every second of hovering devoured battery. A drone that hovered for 5 minutes and flew for 20 wasn't a commercial proposition. Lilium went another way entirely. Their jet embedded 36 electric engines directly into fixed wings in a canard configuration. At cruising speed, those wings generated lift like a conventional plane, the engines no longer fighting gravity alone. The whole system became dramatically more efficient once airborne. Less battery drain, more range. Potentially 200 miles per hour with a range that put genuine regional travel within reach. On paper, it was brilliant. In the air, the Lilium jet tilted, rose cleanly, transitioned to horizontal flight with mechanical grace, and crossed the sky with the quiet confidence of something that knew it belonged there. The question no one asked loudly enough was whether paper and air would ever fully agree. Between a demonstrator flight in Bavaria and a certified commercial aircraft carrying paying passengers, there is a gap so wide and so expensive that many perfectly good aircraft have disappeared into it. Lilium would need to cross that gap in record time, with finite money, against a regulatory process that moves at its own glacial pace. The hype machine. By 2021, Lilium had gone public on NASDAQ through a SPAC merger, valued at nearly $3 billion. For a company that had never carried a single paying passenger, never received a single regulatory certificate. Its primary product was a promise. Investors poured in. Lilium announced partnerships with airports across Florida, Germany, and Brazil. They projected over $1 billion in revenue by 2025 and promised commercial operations by 2024. Press releases came in waves, each more ambitious than the last. The story was irresistible. A European deep tech startup beating Silicon Valley, building not another app but an actual aircraft. Coverage in Forbes, TechCrunch, and the Financial Times gave the company legitimacy that attracted more capital, which funded more coverage, which attracted more capital. And for a while, nobody wanted to be the person asking uncomfortable questions. The kind that made you sound like someone who would have told the Wright brothers to stick to bicycles. The future was coming. Lilium was bringing it. But the uncomfortable questions were always there. When waiting in the margins of every press release, Lilium's battery technology was not keeping pace with its ambitions. The energy density needed for commercial viability remained stubbornly out of reach, and independent engineers who ran the numbers found the performance projections relied on improvements that hadn't happened yet. This is where the contrast with competitors becomes stark. Joby Aviation chose 6 rotors and a proven battery strategy, clearing several FAA milestones. Archer chose 12 rotors. Simplicity built around battery technology that existed today, not tomorrow. Both had a realistic bridge between current battery capability and commercial operation. Lilium's elegant distributed propulsion demanded a leap from battery cells the industry hadn't yet delivered. Joby and Archer bet on incremental progress. Lilium bet on a leap. When it didn't come, there was no fallback. EASA certification moves slowly. Regulators care about whether aircraft kill occupants, not investor timelines. The Lilium jet had no precedent in certification history, and every revision added time the company's financial runway could not afford. Cash burned at hundreds of millions per year. Each funding round bought less runway. Engineers left, taking irreplaceable knowledge with them. Deadlines evaporated, and still the press releases kept coming. In October 2024, Lilium filed for insolvency in Germany, a cold wave through the aerospace world. The German government had declined a €50 million state loan weeks before, roughly 1 month of operating costs. Critics said it would have bought crucial time. Defenders said the state has no obligation to rescue failed private ventures. Both had merit. Neither brought back the jobs. Overnight, 1,000 employees lost their positions. Assembly lines in Oberpfaffenhofen went silent. The Lilium jet, hundreds of test flight hours accumulated, genuine progress towards certification documented, sat grounded in a hangar. A decade of institutional knowledge dispersed into the wind. For a moment, it looked like the story was simply over. Then investors stepped in, a new entity was formed, key personnel rehired. Improbably, Lilium was reborn. The second fall. The revival lasted 4 months. In February 2025, and the new Lilium filed for insolvency again. The same problems had followed it through the rebirth. Insufficient capital, an EASA process indifferent to commercial pressure, a deeply skeptical market, and a technology that had never quite closed the gap between proof of concept and certified commercial deployment. The dream had survived 1 crash. It did not survive 2. $1.5 billion. A decade of engineering, hundreds of test flights, a genuinely novel aircraft that could take off vertically and carry passengers at speeds no electric aircraft had previously achieved. Patents filed, partnerships signed, then unwound, employees hired, then lost. Twice. So was Lilium a scam? The answer is more complicated than that word allows. The technology was real. The engineers were brilliant. The aircraft flew. The vision, clean, quiet urban air mobility, is not a fantasy but a genuine engineering objective that well-funded teams continue to pursue. The goal was believed, with conviction, by the people who created it. Lilium moved at startup speed in an industry that moves at aviation speed. That gap, measured not in miles per hour but in years and billions of euros, is where the company died. It won't be the last to die there. And somewhere in a Munich hangar, a beautiful white jet sits waiting. Its wings are still. Its engines are cold. It is proof that the future is possible, and a warning, clear and quietly devastating, that possibility alone is never enough. The sky belongs to everyone, but getting there is harder than it looks from the ground. So tell us, do you think Lilium was a visionary company that simply ran out of time, or a cautionary tale of ambition that was never anchored in reality? And with Joby, Archer, and others still racing toward that same sky, are we watching the dawn of a new era of flight or the next chapter of the same story? Drop your answer in the comments. We read every single one.